Good evening, and thank you for watching our first episode of the Wolfeboro Exchange. I am so pleased you have taken the time to hang out with us tonight over the next hour. I'm hoping that this first episode will catch your attention, and you will join us weekly to learn more about Wolfeboro and the people and businesses that make it such a special place. After 9 years in town government, I'm hoping to pivot and give you insight from those years from the inside. Using what I know and what I've experienced, I hope to give you direct and concise dialogue on the things relevant to the viewers here in Wolfeboro. I also want to showcase and give you the opportunity to meet those that serve, members of the public, and what it means to be in Wolfeboro today. What we hope to accomplish with this new show is to really dive into what is going on in Wolfeboro town government and all things Wolfeboro. After 9 years on the inside, I will be using that breadth of knowledge to dig into what current events mean to you and how they will affect you. We will dig deep into significant issues, tackle current events, and ask and answer the questions that are at the tips of so many tongues here in Wolfeboro. This is not going to be window dressing. How will we do this? We will do a weekly wrap-up, which I will refer to as a cleanup, on everything that happened in Wolfeboro from the previous week, from planning board, the zoning board, to selectmen's meetings, and the police commission. I will give you a detailed review and focus your attention on what really matters and how the decisions our leaders are making trickle down to you. We will also look at other non-government activities from area building to events to keep you better informed. What this is and what this isn't. We will ask tough questions, and we will also explore complicated issues. We will have weekly guests and give you a better understanding of who makes up Wolfeboro. From business to government, we are putting together a list of guests that will give you a better understanding of Wolfeboro inside and out. I also want to make this fun, so don't be surprised if we cover some fun topics or break up serious questions with something fun. What this is not, and this is important, this is not an online community forum where I will allow people to act trite, snotty, or belligerent. We will be live and we will welcome call-ins and questions, but callers should expect as much give as they do take. Don't be calling up here giving your third-hand knowledge of something you heard at the Wolfeboro Tavern or online. We expect well-developed and thought-provoking conversation. We are a live show, so we won't say what you say won't be edited. So don't be surprised that when you ask a question that I don't throw one right back at you. And now, for our first guest on our newly show, Police Chief Chris Warren's here. And I am a little bit nervous, but I am very excited to have him here. He is somebody that I was so looking forward to getting the chance to interview, and I thought this was a great opportunity to do it on the first show here. So, a little bit about Chris's background and through his bio. You've been actually working for the Wolfeboro PD since 2022, but in a part-time environment. So, though you're new as chief, you've been here in the town working since 2022, which is, I think people should know. You've been a teacher since 2005 and have taught over 2,500 students at PSU, Plymouth State University.
Yep.
Police chief of Campton since 1999, and you were an officer dating all the way back to early 1990. And you got a master's degree in education from Plymouth State. So, Chief, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We have some good questions that I've prepared, and maybe some people out there in the public will have some questions as well. This is an excellent opportunity, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come here for us.
My pleasure.
So I'm gonna dive right in from like the 30,000 point of view here. Some national issues we're gonna cover. We're gonna cover some local issues, but some questions that I kind of came up with. Question one, right off the bat. Tell us about how you've seen policing, law enforcement, change over your career.
Ooh, it's changed a lot, but there again, so has everything around us. The world's changed, the country's changed, the state's changed, and I would imagine Wolfeboro has changed quite a bit during the time that I've been a police officer. I started in law enforcement shortly after my 21st birthday in 1981, so you could do the math. And things change. We've had several generational changes of what we would, I guess, used to call movers and shakers, where I'm at the tail end of the baby boomers, and then you've had other generations come in and through then. I think the major change for law enforcement is the same change as a lot of others, and that's computers. The internet, the way we communicate, and just doing this would never have been a thing in the 1980s. Generational changes are always going to be the biggest change in anything. And first responders, I think there's been a lot more focus on how we deal with things on a daily basis. What's acceptable to talk about to each other, what's acceptable to admit that you struggle with, whereas there was a different attitude from first responders in the 1980s where we didn't really talk about anything. Now we have a lot of officers and firefighters and ambulance responders who will seek help when they need it. So our rescuers are a lot more rescued than they used to be as well. We see a change in the courts and the court structures. We see a change in bail laws. We have had, I couldn't even tell you the amount of law changes that have occurred in 40 some odd years. So it's a new thing, and it's always, every day is a new experience.
Thank you so much for that, answering that question. Kind of come. I think the whole world's kind of changed in the last, definitely in the last 20 years with technology, especially. This, it's not only everywhere, but it's all encompassing. So it gives us the ability to connect with people so quickly, inform them. In the last couple of years, by having Facebook and being able to, for town departments, for instance, being able to, post when there's a power outage, and then keep the public informed. I think it keeps people love that connection to government, and I think it's crucial. And I think it definitely helps because it enables people to also have some power over their own lives. They're more aware of their surroundings. They're more aware of what's going on. Where there was only the nightly news 20 years ago, where you'd get most of your information either from that or from a newspaper. Now we have so many different mediums by which people can communicate and interact with each other. Just the development of the body cam now. It's such a there's connection in so many different ways to keep track and to enable people to just be involved. So it's very interesting, technology, what it's done for us.
It really has changed a lot. Once upon a time, if you wanted the police, you had to find a phone. And some of us in some of the towns remember where the phone booths were. And I mentioned phone booth to a class I was teaching at Plymouth, and they all just kind of had to get more explanation. I had to actually pull a Doctor Who episode into the conversation so they knew what I was talking about. So.
That's funny. My second question, it kind of piggyback on the first question, but it seems like nationwide there seems to be fewer and fewer people choosing, young adults choosing law enforcement as a profession, for various reasons, I'm sure. But how do you combat that, and how do you attract new recruits to Wolfeboro, and what can Wolfeboro do better to maybe help enable us to get new young recruits to come here as opposed to other places?
Well, that's $1 million question, because a lot of agencies are struggling with the very same thing. And it's oftentimes when I've had numerous conversations, like we talked about, I've taught at the university level with folks that are going to go into law enforcement or something in the criminal justice field. So my conversation with them has been, well, what attracts you to that? What are you looking for? What are you hoping to find? And it's not always about the money. And I think that's where a lot of disconnect seems to occur. People in general, and certainly the generation coming into law enforcement now, are looking to be treated fairly. They're looking to be respected. And fair and respectful behavior includes a fair wage. They're not looking to be millionaires. They're looking for being treated fairly and being paid what people are being paid for this sort of career path. What seems to be bigger and something that I'm still adjusting myself to is the life balance. In my world, just starting off as a 21-year-old, I was working 70 hours a week and not thinking twice about it. I couldn't get enough hours, and there was all sorts of opportunity for overtime details and sitting on the side of the road and waving at cars and making extra money, and I would do as much as I could. That's changed. They want a fair life-work balance, and they're looking for the benefits for self and for family. They're thinking ahead. We never did. They're asking about, well, what's the New Hampshire retirement system all about? I had no idea about retirement because I didn't think I'd ever retire. As it turned out, I retired a couple times, and I keep failing at that. So they're looking for the total picture. They're asking as many questions and interviewing as they're receiving. They're looking for continuing education and training. They want to be better at what they're doing. They don't want to be confused about what their jobs are or what the expectations are. They're looking at what's the equipment. And one thing that I've always stressed in agencies is to have decent equipment. Doesn't have to be the best, but it has to be very good equipment. It has to be kept clean, serviceable. The employees have to be taught how to keep it serviceable and clean, and so when you go to use it, it works. It's the stuff our parents taught us. And once there's that pride in themselves, and that will then flow into the pride in the agency, more people come to be a part of that pride. I think if we look around, or if we even think about ourselves, the happiest or the best we feel is when we're proud of what we're a part of. So all these things do come to one conclusion, if you will, and that is I'm happy to be here because I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to be a part of this group, and I'm safe. I'm being taught how to be safe. I'm taught how to keep others safe and to do the job correctly. So it's a little bit more steps. There's more moving parts in the new employee of today than there was 40 years ago. But at the end of the day, the result is what we're hoping for is the same.
The pride. It was interesting because, I've been to a few swearing-ins. I went to yours, and one of your officers came all the way down from Campton. I don't remember his name, but it was really nice to see that type of pride. I mean, you were chief there, but you left in 2020, and he made the trip down. I think a couple other people did as well.
Yep.
That was really cool. It was unique.
That was Kevin Voss. He's the chief of police. He had been my number 2 officer in my department. He was a sergeant, and I actually mentored and trained him to take over my role when I left the department.
It was wonderful.
Great to see.
Yeah, it was. So now we'll go kind of focus on some more Wolfeboro issues. This is an issue that I heard in the past when I was a selectman, and it's been kind of an issue that people have been talking about, online for a few years. But so there seems to have been in recent summers. There's been citizens have asked, and they've identified that there's not as much of a presence in downtown, especially in the summertime, with the police department. Stu Chase, who served for a year, the past year before you came in, made an effort, started to get more of a downtown presence. I believe they brought back the our bike patrol, which enables the officers to obviously patrol areas like the Bridge Falls Path and things like that are heavily trafficked during the summertime. So, what are your thoughts on the downtown presence, and what's your philosophy?
Well, I have to be honest with you, I was excited to see it downtown. Campton is a very rural community, and I was saddened that there wasn't a downtown to walk in. Prior to Campton, I was a police officer in Plymouth, and I was elated when they put me on foot patrol for part of my shift, because that was fun. I enjoyed that. It made getting your steps a thing before it was a thing. Since coming to Wolfeboro, I've made it very clear to the officers I expected that they would spend at least an hour of their shift on their feet. I have myself been down a few times, run into some great people, had some fantastic conversations, and people have shown me by their conversation, their behaviors, they really want to see the officers down there. And I don't think that's any different no matter where you go. If there's a downtown area, you kind of expect to see a police officer somewhere you can ask a question to, get directions from, find out different things about the area. So it's something the Wolfeboro residents should be getting very used to seeing, and that's all year round. That's not just in the summer. They should be seeing police officers down there as often as we're able to, provided that we're not on calls elsewhere. They should make a focused attempt to be down there.
It's a fun environment too when it's summertime too, and the officer's able to get out and meet people, and it's that it's that presence, and it's that ability to interact with people. It makes them. It's just a really. It's always been like a. You drive downtown on a Friday night and you're going down to the Bailey's Bubble or Dockside to get an ice cream. There would always be, when I was a kid, there was always be an officer parked just right next to the post office. The cruiser would be there, and then the officer would be out, mingling, talking, walking in, the shops in downtown or whatever. And it was always something you saw when you pulled into town. And I think that after COVID, it kind of trickled down a little bit, and then the last couple of years. So that's great. I think it's good for the town. I'm sure it's good for the interactions with the citizens.
Yeah, and it certainly makes sure that we bring home the point that we are part of that community. We're not just the folks that come in for trouble and then we disappear again. Police departments are a part of the community, and that certainly does show that to the community. It's actions, not just words.
Absolutely. So I know it's only been a few weeks, probably a month and a half now, maybe.
February 1.
February 1. Okay, so, but you've been here. You've been working part-time for the department, so you know all the ins and outs. So what are if you could give me some of your or give the viewers some of your specific goals, what you're looking at.
Sure.
For the department and going forward.
I have many goals, and I think that is crucial. Even if a police department has everything going in the right direction, you're still going to want a lot of objectives to reach different goals. I'll give you a few. I wrote some down just so I wouldn't miss ones that I felt were most important. I've read a few articles where they were welcoming the new chief in Wolfeboro and what was important to the folks writing the article, and one that reoccurring theme is the accreditation thing. So the accreditation thing is it's a group of police departments that have for the last 20 years or so been pushing towards getting standardized policies and procedures throughout the state of New Hampshire. Currently, the national standard is called CALIA, which is a private company that will assist agencies to structure policies, procedures, the way they do things. It certainly makes the department a lot more professional. It certainly protects the department as well, they do things a certain way, it's because that's the best practice. I was involved as a police chief in the conversation almost 20 years ago now with regard to, does that work for New Hampshire? I was in a community north of Concord, and my concern as a small town police chief was, I'm not Nashua, I'm not Manchester, I'm certainly not Concord. Things are different here. So, and that's just the state of New Hampshire. We're looking at Kalia, and now we're comparing ourselves to LA and New York and Detroit and Chicago. So obviously it was even bigger than something that we thought we should be able to handle. And it was expensive for a small town. So we were pushing for a statewide accreditation. This is a conversation that former Chief Rondo, Captain Livy, and I had when I was working on restructuring the policies here in Wolfeboro as a part-timer. We had discussed moving towards that state accreditation because the policies that I was writing were commensurate to what accreditation requested, or required, I should say. So rather than just stopping short and just getting policies done, we made the decision to just keep pushing forward and getting this state accreditation so that we're practicing best practices, that all the officers understand the policies and they can be trained on them, and other agencies will understand what those policies are as well, including New Hampshire Police Standards and Training, who oversees the accreditation process. So that's one big goal.
Can I just ask you one question
sure.
on that? Because we're actually sitting, the backdrop here is the new public safety building, which, if you've never been in the old public safety building, it's old. I had a chance to walk through it last week. It is an old building. It's aging. It's pretty much falling down around the people in there. The new building is well underway. So some of the stuff in Kalia, I believe, couldn't have even been done in that old police station.
Correct.
Like there's all kinds of new rules when it comes to witnesses. I mean, not witnesses, but when you bring a suspect in and stuff like that. Different bathrooms. I mean, we have aging infrastructure in there. That's going to be taken care of with this beautiful new public safety building that we're, well on the way to building. And, I believe it's going to be done in some or late summer. Is that what the plan is for? That's what I've been told. It looks good. I mean, it's getting there. You can see the size of it behind us there. It's a drone shot that I took yesterday. But a lot of the things that the chief was just talking about with the standards are going to be encompassed in this new building. I'll be able to accomplish a lot of those things you just mentioned. So I wanted to just throw that in there for...
Yeah, there is a lot of standards that rely on the building to make happen that would be in violation in the current structure. So we would have to await moving into the public safety building to be able to get accredited.
Sure.
Sure.
Sorry I interrupted you, but I thought that was important.
That's okay. I also want to move towards implementation of body-worn cameras on the agency. I think we can make that happen through state and federal grants.
Excellent.
So we can keep the costs down, but I believe that that is an important step towards transparency in the agency and protect the officers. Continue to work with community-based organizations. I've had the opportunity to meet several different community organizations. I look forward to spending more time with them. I've never been a big fan of meetings. I know you're not either, but sometimes they're required. And meetings, I should qualify that a little bit and say I've never been a big fan of meetings that don't accomplish things. I've been a fan of getting together with people, stakeholders in the community, and actually moving towards fixing something or finding something or getting something done, and then I feel accomplished. So I'm going to continue reaching out to those folks as well. Obviously, we need to replace our current officer vacancies, and we're focused on that and looking for qualified applicants to come in. We do have our standards, and we're not going to ignore standards Wolfeboro deserves a certain type of man or woman to come in and do this job, and we'll wait for them. We'll wait for the right people. And blessed to the officers that are on the job right now in Wolfeboro. They're working a lot of hours, and they've gone by that point where I was mentioning earlier about we love to have the little extra hours to make the overtime. They're well past that point, and just they're coming in because they have to. And I thank them from the bottom of my heart that they're doing that, and they're doing it positively, and they're treating people with respect, and it's all good there. I would like to, on that note, continue and strengthen the positive relationship with the collective bargaining unit. That's comprised of the officers and sergeants and communication specialists within the agency, and get a good working relationship with these folks. And then certainly work with the police commission as well, and get everybody on the same page, because we're all at it together, and we're all looking for the same thing at the end of the day, and that's the best police department anywhere, and that's my goal, is to be a part of the best police department. So those are some of my goals. I have many more. I invite anybody to communicate with me. They usually can find me Monday through Friday, and even sometimes in the evening. I'll try to be down on the main street, but I want people to come up to me and give me some thoughts as to what they'd like to see.
So just to learn a little bit more about you, when it comes, police officers by and large, it's a tough job. And it's a job that a lot of times you're not responding to the best in people's lives. So, I wanted to focus on the positive. And what's something over the course of your 30-year career that has been a positive situation that's come out of something that has reinstilled like your why you do it? Can you give me one example, or maybe there's many, but
I'd like it to be only 30, but it's 42.
42.
It's my whole adult life. We had this conversation before, and you asked if there was a highlight and a highlight reel, and I would have to say that, and as weird or corny as it may sound, every day is a highlight reel for me, because the attitude is, you got to like what you do, or else you're always laboring, you're always working. There's been some days that were hard, and there were some days that weren't as hard. The thing that attracted me most to this job, for lack of a better term, is the same thing as it does now. I don't do the same thing every day, although it's a little bit more similar in the chief's role than it was as a patrol officer. But I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was going to happen from one day to the next. That was actually attractive to me, and where some people might not find that to be very attractive. I think I meet great people, and yeah, we tend to, in law enforcement, meet people on their worst day. But a lot of time, I'd like to think that because of our presence, we also can make that bad day better. We can not fix it, but make it a bit of a softer landing for some folks. I can protect some people. I can protect some property. I can protect pets. These are all important things to me, because at the end of the day, I feel like I did something. I have this kind of a story that I've told my sons. I have 6 children. I have 2 bio, 1 adopted, and 3 steps. So I have many children, and I've sat down with probably every one of them by now, as they're all at some different stage of adulthood, and I've said, someday in your life you're going to sit down and you're going to have a conversation with yourself, and that conversation is going to be, am I happy with where I'm at? Have I accomplished what I want to accomplish? And if I haven't, how do I do that? And I am happy to report that, yeah, I've had those conversations and I've been happy with what I've chosen. I suggested earlier that I failed at retiring. And in 2020, I retired after being the chief for 21 years and having been a police officer since 81. And I thought there was nothing else for me to do in my agency. I'd done all those objective things that we talked about. And the next chief was trained, and the town was pleased with the work I had done, and I had accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and I found myself bored. I was like, okay, now what do I do? Do I just sit here, earn a paycheck, and just kind of glide, or? And that just didn't feel right to me. So I retired, and then once in retirement, I was like, okay, I got to do something now, because I wasn't ready to be done with the job, but I was ready to be done with that job. So Wolfeboro came along at a very good time for me, where I have a lot of energy. The job still excites me. I still enjoy it very much, and I enjoy the optimism in this community. These are folks that love their town. We're very proud of their community. They love their police department, and that's a great thing. And that is a place where I've come from. The town that I was chief in prior loved their police department, and it's a great feeling to go out, and I feel, and we should all feel very thrilled that is the relationship that they have, because not all communities have that. And I should be, I guess, leading our department to more of that, and to find out what it is that the community wants of us that we can provide.
It's an excellent answer. It's
Thank you.
yeah. It's got a really tough one for you. Okay, so
Sure.
what's your go-to for a restaurant, and what is your favorite food?
My restaurant. Well, I like meat, beef.
Okay, good.
Anywhere where I can, and I can't obviously recommend anything, because that would be wrong. And
Doesn't
the
even be in Wolfeboro. It could be someplace
conversation that we've had in the past is, when I wear this uniform, I don't like one thing over another.
Okay.
But I'll always go for
But if
beef,
you're
and my
cooking
wife
at
will always
home,
go
okay.
over seafood.
Okay.
So it's usually rock, paper, scissor, and whatever
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. I hear that. Seafood is definitely, but I could be swayed either way. But if it's pasta in front of me, I'm good. A little bit of Italian. It's my thing.
My just as an aside, my hobbies include cooking and baking. So oftentimes in law enforcement, one of the biggest things I try to support is the officers and other employees having great things to do, stuff they enjoy doing. The things that I typically throw off people that are applying for work is, especially as a former criminal justice professor, is not what classes did you take that were criminal justice, what did you take that were, like, what did you want to take? What were the classes that you just felt like taking because you wanted to? We call those direction classes in Plymouth, but they're gen eds or these types of things. And they always kind of look at me kind of funny. And my last question in interviews that I would give if I go to another agency and I help them hire somebody is, what's the last book you read? And the looks you get on that question are pretty interesting. My hobbies are, I have an Indian motorcycle. So once the salt and sand get off the road, you know where to find me. I like to cook and bake, and I like to woodwork. So it's kind of all sorts of different things. I'm trying to get very small grandchildren involved in any of those things. So,
do you have any other anything else do you want to tell the people out there watching, or are there any other things you want to talk about?
I'd like to come back after I've been doing this for 6 months. I'd like to get some folks to call in
Yep.
and have some conversations back and forth with some folks in town. I'd like to get your take on compare us to this very moment right now.
Oh, it's going to be fun because
and then in 6 months say, well, remember back then we talked about this. How's that working out for you?
Yeah.
And just enjoy that conversation and see where we're at.
I think that'll be fun, and I think it's important that we have this, the ability to sit down and discuss these things. Like you said, technology, and it just, it's crazy how things develop, and the town's so lucky to have you. I got to know you for the last month and a half, but from your resume, and when I talked about your officer coming out from that's now the chief there in Campton, it's a pleasure to have you here. It's a pleasure being able to ask you all those questions, getting some really nice dialogue back and forth. And I think it's good that the people out there, the voters in Wolfeboro and the residents of Wolfeboro have the ability to know a little bit more about their police chief. So thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you for asking me. I really enjoyed
I
it.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now the wrap up. And this is exactly what I was hoping that would happen for our first show. It was great to have the Chris Warren, the new Wolfeboro Police Chief, here. Thank you so much, and we look forward to your leadership and steadfast dedication to the town of Wolfeboro. I think that I can say that I'm excited about what we talked about. I'm excited to see how the public safety building is coming along, and we'll be right back. Thank you. So now, some time for some election results. Voters in Wolfeboro, for the first time in more than a decade, voted down the operating budget, choosing instead the default budget. I think that there was a lot of talk going into budget season on the Board of Selectmen. The average, when we go through the budget every year, it's a 3-month process that we look at every component to the budget. And I think the voters finally said, between what they were looking at in the tax increase, what we were showing for interest to be paid in debt service, and what came out of the deliberative session, I feel voters for the first time, rejected by and large the overall budget. They're pushing back on what they perceive as overspending here in Wolfeboro. I would personally disagree with that. I think the process has been long, and it's a tough process, but it's financially sound. The process goes from the town manager to the Board of Selectmen to the Budget Committee. It's a long process. It takes, between all the time spent, it's probably over 200 hours of time being spent. But voters overwhelmingly voted down the budget, and that kind of puts us now into a default budget. So the town manager, working with department heads, will need to review the budget and trim spending where they can and work within that default budget. So that was one of the big things that came out of the election. Voters also voted down the Port Wetland Water Management warrant article. This warrant article was the second time it's come before the voters. The first time it was approved for $484,000. This time was asking for additional funding to turn the project from a 1-year storm potential to a 10-year storm. This is a water management plan that has been developed through one of the contractors that works for the town of Wolfeboro, Stantec. It's an engineering firm, and it was voted down. That vote required a 60% majority, and it did fail. Voters also chose to vote down the new Wolfeboro Police Cruiser and the Parks and Recreation Tractor. These were two more things that went down with the current environment that we're in here in Wolfeboro when it comes to the budget. The tractor was going to be used for a variety of things through Parks and Rec, And the way Wolfeboro and the police department plans out the cruisers, they plan it out in a one cruiser every year in order to keep the department's cruisers fresh. And those cruisers reach, 100 to 140,000 miles in the course of 5 years time. So there's a regular cycling of cruisers. Voters chose to vote that down. So, they'll probably see another article next year for a police cruiser coming forward in 2025. Voters chose to upheld the police commission, the road projects in town, as well as the locker room leases for the Pop Whalen Ice and Arts Center. So the police commission warrant article was a petitioned warrant article that was brought forward by some people here in town to abolish the police commission, which was formed in 1959. It was voted down this time. It had come up for a vote previously in 2008 and almost passed. It was almost abolished. But voters chose to keep the police commission. Police commission's made up of 3 commissioners, and they oversee the police department working with the chief, and they oversee everything from hiring and firing to employee issues. It's a pretty unique thing as being in New Hampshire politics or in New Hampshire government having a police commission, but it serves a purpose, and I think voters chose to keep it because they saw the value in having the checks and balance with the police commission. Voters also chose to keep or to allow the town to enter into a use agreement with the users of the Pop Whalen Ice and Arts Center. So Brewster Academy, Kingswood Hockey, and Back Bay all are been legacy users of the Ice and Arts Center that was just recently built. This 40-year agreement will allow these users to outfit their own locker rooms. There'll still be 4 public locker rooms that have always been allowed to be used by the general public. Voters, so this will help. This will also help the Friends of Pop, enable them to raise more money towards what they still owe the town of Wolfeboro this coming July. So it was a win-win, I believe, for the town and for the users that are going to, spend $250,000 upgrading these locker rooms to their own standards for their teams. So those are most of the big issues that you saw on the ballot. It was, I think the election was eye-opening for a lot of people. It's been a long time since a operating budget failed, but I think it'll give those in government pause to, work harder to maybe cut the budget next year. There's a lot of debt service, and a lot of this debt service that we're currently facing is coming out of the public safety building. So half the debt service was seen on this current warrant, and half the debt service will be seen on the coming warrant. So it's interesting times in Wolfeboro when it comes to finances, and I hope people tune in between now and budget season, as opposed to just during the budget season. Get involved. Get involved as much as you can, because it's important that people are involved and follow the process throughout the entire year. And that's what we're here for. And I hope that you're going to follow this show. And I'm looking forward to talking next week. We'll be looking at planning and zoning and recent activities of both the Planning and Zoning Board. None of this is possible without the support of Wolfeboro Community Television and the staff here. Further, we are looking for underwriting for this and other programs that Wolfeboro Community TV offers. Something very important to me, when you're out there, try to be kind. I always encourage random acts of kindness. It'll make you and others' days special. So when you're out there, be kind, and thank you. Until next week, have a great week in Wolfeboro.